Thank you for coming. This is great. It is kind of interesting. I have a portrait of each other here for you to see. On the left is me, and on the right is Elspeth. But I think that what I wanted to show you was that our practices are very diverse and very different, and I think that there is a point at which we intersect, and that's where we collaborate on public art. Our role is usually one of greater and greater definition and resolution through kind of problem solving. Hers is much more of an abstraction, where she starts doing some research in abstraction from that point. One of the things that Elspeth's work does, this is called concentric circles, is it's very contingent on using the space and the wall. As you see, this piece right here is completely dependent on having the wall be there. It can't actually exist without it. And the other thing that this piece shows is her materials, her prosaic materials that she uses to elevate the work. This one's called Pendulum. Again, you see the styrofoam, the wire, and everything else that she uses. And again, supported by the wall and the wire. And I hope I'm doing her work justice because, of course, I'm speaking for her. She was unable to be here. She had a conference to go to. This one's called Done Deal, and it's a study on 60s architecture and its kind of blandness. And you can see here again that it's highly abstracted, and the orange, I think, is supposed to represent some of the decoration that they used to kind of explain the building. From that point of view, it's very different than we'll show you from my work. This is one of the houses that we've done in Mexico. We do some off-the-grid projects. It's a body of work that we do, but I wanted to show this because I think it shows the sculptural nature of our work. I think also shows the elemental nature of our work that we do, and I think in that way it tends towards the sculptural, although, as I said, it's very different in the way it engages things. There's a project in South Surrey. It's a very different condition, but again, very simple use of materials. In that way, we share something with Elspeth. We use very, very standard materials and try to elevate them, very basic things. At the end of the day, I think there's an interesting position where we intersect. That she kind of tends to abstract, and we try to create more resolution. This is the first project that we collaborated on. It's called Night Visions for Vancouver. It ended up not being realized, but it was on a bicycle route. And one thing that Elspeth and I share is about being subtle with our work. And there was a number of lights that came on to gauge the elevation of the hills, because as you can see on the bottom. And there was an idea that cyclists, of course, need to engage that elevation as how they read the terrain. This is a piece that Elspeth did for the off-site in the Shangri-La site for the Vancouver Art Gallery last year. And I think it's interesting how it illustrates. She's very much in dialogue with the architecture that's there, and the idea around decoration and the structural gymnastics that are being done now in architecture. I want to show this picture because I think that Elspeth's work and our work is very contingent on the viewer and the positioning. It doesn't have a kind of frontality or any of that. There's a yellow liner on the pool, so everybody in the tower, when they look down at the work, they had something that they could look at as well. And again, also this image with the mylar that was coated with the mirror surface was quite interesting because the piece actually was very dependent on the weather and what was there. It kept changing, it kept on reflecting itself with the environment, which is something, of course, that we do in our work and which we share. I think additionally, Elspeth's work tries to be very kind of ambiguous in the way that it works. This is a very interesting photograph that somebody sent out, which is a bunch of kids skimboarding. They went a bit viral. It's a great place to go skimboarding in the city of Vancouver, which of course we love because we love that idea that the artwork can be appropriated and doesn't have a single meaning, and it takes the user to come and give it its own meaning and its own use. So this is fantastic to us. I want to talk about the piece that we did here for Richmond. This is on the dike in front of the Richmond Olympic Oval. We had this very, very long site, and we wanted to deal with the relationship that people have in Richmond towards the rivers. They're very linear. So we proposed putting this long wall and 3 platforms to, in some way, engage the viewer and try to reorient them and break that linear relationship that they have to the river when they walk. We did 3 platforms. You can see the structure, and then they come together, and the way that the decking goes on them, and a very long 300-odd feet wall that tried to play with the perspective by being 5 times bigger at one end than the other. So whenever you look down this linear perspective, it tried this idea of disrupting how you read that. This is what it looked like when we first got there. This is a very inspirational picture for us. It shows the kind of embankment and the idea of sedimentation that occurs, and the alluvial laying down that happens in the river, plus all the things that we're collecting on the river, which I think was a very interesting process that happens. In the ocean, things tend to come and go. There they come and they stay. I think it's great. I'd like to commend the city of Richmond. This is basically a dike revetment project. They were going to raise the dike, and they had a vision to actually put something here, which was fantastic. So they wanted to add something. You can see where we started to add our little pieces to, I don't know how many hundreds and thousands of tons of rock that they actually piled on there and put our work on there. Here's the construction of the 300 and odd feet alluvial wall that we had. That was very interesting because it was colored concrete being layered down and had to look like it was accretion, which is not the way they do concrete. So we asked all the concrete workers to please go get drunk the night before and come to work and do the worst job they've ever done in their life. This is one of the platforms being lifted into place. Of course, it was a tight schedule to get this done. It was manufactured off-site and brought. You can kind of see the rather haphazard big tubes that they have, which is meant to mimic this idea around the collection of detritus that happens as the river flows. You can see some of those pieces then sticking down. Here's the platform being covered with wood, and the idea is that this is the tactile surface which people will then use to cross this line when they're walking by the river, use the platforms and get reoriented to different parts of the river. We did the foreshore, the other side of the river and the bridges. This is one of the platforms being finished. You can see the wall, the tactile strips, and these ambiguous seating areas. I think ambiguity plays a part in what we try to do so that it gets appropriated. I've seen things from wedding pictures to people just signing themselves and having lunch and doing all sorts of things on there, which is sort of what we wanted. We want to mimic and illustrate the processes of the river in a very abstract way. This is the composite at the top right. You see the alluvial wall and behind the garden. You see the sort of very basic materials that we use below that, the galvanized steel and the concrete. We just left it like that. And this is an early picture of one of the platforms that was there. And we're hoping the people of Richmond will use it and enjoy it. Thank you.